Good morning, everybody. This is the Case of the Mondays, and of course, it's Monday morning. And apologies for being a few minutes behind the 8 o'clock Central Time hour. I'm here with Ryan Muhammad, the logistics monk, and we are talking about technology and where it's going in logistics. So, thank you, Ryan. Good morning. We made it.
We made it. I'm so happy. I'm so happy to be here. I'm thankful for this opportunity. So looking forward to the chat.
Great, great. So, I have been thinking about some different aspects of the logistics industry, especially from a sales standpoint, because just because of like everything that happened in 2022 and obviously before that, but specifically this year and how the market just completely shifted and we're all just kind of going out and trying to figure it out as far as what to do next because of just so many uh, so many shifts in the what direction the market was going in and how logistics are happening and what that means to the industry. So um, I think being in the spearhead of technology is just such an important thing to do right now. It's not going to go away. Logistics is not going to go away. So I think it's a great topic to put out there and for people to learn from.
I think so too. And I couldn't agree with more. I think with the one thing that I say quite a bit to our show, right, is just the experience never really changes. Like you just said, logistics doesn't change, right? And I really do like to compare it to the movie cinema. I know it's going to sound a little bit weird, but you think about the movie theaters maybe like 5, 10 years ago. We would buy our tickets and then we'd rush to the cinema to hope to get our seats and then get our popcorn and make it in time. And you look at like now, you buy your tickets, you buy pre-assigned seats. You don't have to worry; you can actually get food delivered to you now. Just the experience, but when you look at it from an aspect of that, you're still going to the movies. You're going to go watch a movie. So watching the actual movie hasn't changed, and I think that's the same thing with logistics. That logistics itself hasn't changed. There's different things that you can add, like technology and all these new strategies and things like that. But the art form of building relationships is what I actually think logistics is. Hasn't changed one bit.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's something that I mention a lot whenever that conversation gets started. Is there's like a there's that's just the pivotal piece. It's the part of it that you can't necessarily streamline it, and you can't necessarily go backwards with it. But and you can't go without the relationship building. People have to they have to work with each other. They have to be able to communicate, and I think that's going to be kind of the cornerstone of our industry. But I do feel like a lot of technology is going to come in and help make it better. There's that idea of people believe that it replaces human beings, but I don't think that's true. I think it actually well supports us and makes things more efficient and better for everybody. So I'm a huge fan. I've been that way. I actually I didn't go to college right away, but I'm glad that when I did, there was a lot of technology available to you as a student. But I also think going into the business focus, really, I think I came in at a good time because there was this kind of um, introducing what was going to come and breaking it down so that as a student I was like, okay, I see how that comes together and where how that works with the old processes and so today I'm seeing in action the stuff that was just being discussed in a classroom. Oh, back in back in the day. So I'm actually excited about people that are putting some investment into improving technology, getting innovative, and really finding ways to put that out there. And especially right now, I'm in the opinion that we have the bigger market that's investing in capital, and they're figuring out ways to provide more like let's just say carriers. They're investing in docks and ports and boats and planes, containers, whatever. They're putting money into the industry itself. But I think businesses and the small the logistics providers should be investing internally as well to help speed up and match what's going to happen with like the 3PLs and the that part of the market. So internally, having innovation and technology will help with speeding up the customer experience ultimately through our internal communications and relationships. So that's kind of where I'm at with it and why I get really excited about seeing new stuff come out and giving it a go.
And I think that is so important. I just want to touch on a couple points that you just kind of made. Like
Okay.
it's up to the carriers that, to invest in these things because gone are the days. Like I've only been in the industry for about since 2018. So close, no, 2017, sorry. Um, and it's been about 5, 6 years I've been in it. And I've seen so much change within the last time. And when I talk to different people who've been in the industry for like 15, 20, 30 years, they're seeing a big difference, right? The first thing they talk about is how they used to use load boards. Like, a carrier would call in from on the road and they would put their load on basically like through a fax or something like that. And when we look at the innovation now, I'm a big believer, not just in logistics, but in my life, about working smarter, not harder. Right. So
Yeah.
if I'm looking and when I'm looking at from the side of like the sales, so I work on the sales side, I'm looking at ways to really automate my day, automate, delegate, and delete. Right. And those are the
Yeah.
three things that I really want to do because, I when I first got into the industry, Teresa, like I was like meant to like do like 100 calls a day, 4 hours of talk time inbound plus outbound. And, having those conversations were great, but it led to burnout. Right. So I think with technology that we look at options here, like even for myself, like there's amazing tools out there for the salesperson, like Bridger, like Outreach, all these different like CRMs enable to, hey, let me automate my day in a way that is like personalized. Right.
Yeah.
So many times, I don't know about you, Teresa, just and just for the sales aspect specifically, but there's so many times that hey, you connect with somebody and then you send them this copy and paste of what you do as a business and how many trucks you have, and then you send them this intro pack, we call them, or a slideshow that nobody reads. Like, let's call
Right.
it spade a spade. Nobody reads those, right? So I think you have to get smarter. And the one thing that you kind of said too was like, not only technology is evolving, everything else is. Like you look at marketing for companies. If you work for a company now, gone are the days of just kind of making these company vanilla posts and just posting it online. Like there actually has to be an engagement. There's actually a marketing team now to engage and get your product out there because I like when we go to like these different conferences and we see different things. Obviously, you're probably seeing the thing. Everyone's talking about AI right now, and I'm a big fan of using AI to my
Yeah.
benefits. Whether it be like whether it be for our show, there's multi-purpose options there, or even in my logistics. Like, how can I make my emails better? Like, if the resources is there, Teresa, like, why wouldn't you use it? I don't know. That's just my point of view.
I think that's just a mindset. It, People have different ideas about how technology actually works, but I think that that is where um, if you get the exposure and you get education on how information passes and like for example, I use an e-card for my business card, and it really it's sufficient. Everybody has a cell phone, and it's easy just to kind of tap it on there, and my information passes, right? Well, some people who don't really understand like how it works, they feel like, oh, well, if your information can pass, what can it take away from the device it's interacting with? And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. It's a one way, a one way exchange, and I think that that's where you have to have an open mind. Like you have to be willing to trust the process, and that's kind of where we're seeing a separation of people. Some people really only trust like what is right in front of them, what they can control, and that might be picking up the phone and talking to a human being, and then writing notes down on a piece, on a notepad. My thing with the CRMs and that technology, and even platforms for customer facing, is that information is more secure that way. I can't tell you how many times I've actually, there's probably notebooks throughout my career, like I don't know where they're at anymore. Probably went in the trash
Yeah.
at some point because that information got entered into a CRM of some sort. I started my logistics career in 2015, and then before that I was working in like a marketing type setting, but I was always trying to figure out ways to remove the paper product out of my process because um, you put it down. If it disappears, that's the hard copy. It's gone. Where
Sure.
if it's inside like a scan or a folder or a document of some sort electronically, you can you know. Fortunately, all of my experiences have been with the cloud, so I've never had that situation where you just delete something and you can't ever get it back. So
Mm.
that's that's gone. So we can always find stuff. But anyway, I think that that's where I became a fan of technology because of exactly what you were saying. I could run a process really quick and do a quick verification. Like at that point, there was text messaging, so I could um, send something through my phone through like a cam scan documentation, email it off, and then just text my colleague real quick like, hey, did you get that email? And then I could just quickly move on versus having the paper form. It's filled out, then you got to figure out like, how am I going to store this? And I think that was kind of fanny pack day stuff in your bag. But if anything disappeared between like leaving your meeting and getting to your operations, then it was like you'd have to hope that you could remember a name or a number. It was just such a stress out. So I agree with that. I feel like at the end of the day, all these things help operations and sales provide a better customer experience, whether they are seeing it or not. And I think that as COVID really kind of created a paradigm shift for how everybody works because while we all love being in person, and that's still very important to connect, face to face. I think that when you're going through your work day, though, like if someone invited me to a virtual meeting, I would be like, oh yeah, here, let me get my stuff together. We could do it in 5 minutes. Versus, okay, is it hot out today? Like, how am I gonna get in the car and then hope that I drive directly to the meeting and don't get lost or nothing happens in between. And I think that's just going to be a fact going forward. And I especially think that with everything that is happening, technology is the place to put your money because the best way to grow in a market that seems like it's going downward is to just simplify and technology really allows us to do that. And I know in my own my own personal experiences, having technology actually made my experience better and it provided a higher quality for like just being a single parent and having small children that I was raising up, having technology versus when I was a kid and my parents were like, you're responsible for you. So if you die, like, I'm gonna be mad at you, not everybody else, right? So they just we had this stress factor, but I think my parents spent a lot of time like having to um, micromanage more because they couldn't keep in direct contact with us. So in my experience, I had more direct ways to keep in contact with my kids while I was still doing kind of that, we still had little periods of time where I was at work and they were at home and that kind of thing. So I felt like it always makes things a little higher quality. Their experiences were actually better because they could also reach me. But same kind of concept with business is um, we can internally communicate better, we can set ourselves up better, the information is better, so at the end of the day, the customer experience is better. And I think that end user is always, it's always going to be the focal point at the end of the day for, especially in logistics.
I think so too, and I couldn't agree with more what you kind of said in terms of technology for the customer experience, and people have to remember that too, right? Whatever technology you're investing in, or whatever anything, it could be anything that you're investing in. It's all about the customer relationship at the end of the day. And when I look at like logistics itself, like we were just talking earlier, that you could change all these things, but the number one congruent thing is that you're going to be building relationships. Like, to be successful in this industry, you have to build a relationship with at least one person. One
Yeah.
person has to like and trust you. And
Yeah.
and that's what we look at. So in ways, like, for me, the biggest technology change that I kind of say was, when we started doing like GPS tracking. How many
Yeah.
times where like that were lost at like tracking calls,
Yes.
like calling them, and like, maybe the driver slept or something like that. And then, what you get that. I feel like with these technology, you use it to an advantage, to a point that, you just have a little bit more respect for people. And that's what I
Yeah.
feel like we kind of lack a little bit in this industry, is that respect factor. Because like, let's look at, let's say somebody doesn't have GPS tracking, and you're calling that driver, and you don't know what that driver has been through. Because like, truck
Yeah.
driving is it's a lonely drive. It's a lonely road, and a lonely career. So imagine, he hasn't had the best night. He maybe overslept a little bit, but he's there. Like, he's in front of the receiver. There's no big deal. He's going to make the appointment, but we're blowing up his phone. We're blowing up his ops team, who doesn't even know where he is, and stuff like that. So I think
Yeah.
that human aspect, using technology to basically enhance that, right? Because customers before, hey, where's my truck? That's all they want to know. Like, when I
Yeah.
talk to shippers, Teresa, they just want their shipments to deliver on time and claim free, because we have to understand that they have a customer as well.
Yeah.
Especially if you deal with a customer who's going into like a Walmart, or going into like a Sam's Club, or going into retail, or anywhere. Our customer has a customer, so they have people to answer to, right? So
Yeah.
if we're not doing our due diligence and not using the technology in the right way, because like, you can get all these bells and whistles, like all these fancy like TMSs and all these amazing things, but if it's not to help and make the customer's journey and their role more efficient in their way, the way that they do things, then it's really of no use. That's just my personal
Yeah.
opinion. The stuff that I use is really to help my customers, so that, a funny thing that I kind of ask my customers, if they're a brand new prospect, is like, you know, what does a Christmas bonus look like to you, like, now, and what would you like that to kind of look like? And, how can we get you to a point that you're doing an amazing job of you're doing an amazing job of, your boss comes to you and be like, who have you been using? We're so proud of you. Because everybody has a boss to answer to. And
Yeah.
that's why I say, you have those relationships so that you can make it easier. Because, Teresa, this for a fact. No one's going to go into business with somebody who's going to make their job harder. Like you were saying,
Yeah.
you're using technology, being a single parent and stuff like that. You're not going to use something, or like use any kind of technology or any product or any kind of service that is going to put more time that you have to spend. You're looking for somebody to take away time from you. So if it's like a
Yeah.
concierge and things like that. So, um, you know, I everybody who's watching, I definitely recommend that, understand what technology does for you, does for the company. If you do work in a company, unless like you're an agent or you're a business owner yourself, and understand what it does for the customer. Bring them in those
Yeah.
conversations. Like, ask them, like, like, hey, have you heard about like AI? Have you heard about like GPS tracking? Have you heard about like reefer temp downloads instantly? Like, these are the conversations that you need to be having with your customer. And I just think it's just so important.
Oh wait, real quick, Kashri, thank you so much. I'm that's the you're the reason we're having this talk today, is because it's it is great information, and it's kind of a conversation at the moment in the industry, and I hope to see more people opening up their businesses to innovation, and kind of understanding that yes, we can keep the old school way. We can pick up the phones and we can call, and but it it takes you miss out on some opportunities, because especially because of the amount of people that are getting into decision making roles who are not phone friendly, who,
Yes.
I mean, I know personally, I like text messages and emails better, because no matter what I'm doing, I can glance down on it and then I can prioritize, like, okay, is that an emergency? No, it's not. Okay, well, I'm gonna finish this thing I'm doing right now so I don't make any error, and then I'll answer that. And I always tell people, if I send a text or an email or something in writing, it's because in my head right now I'm thinking of that, and I know if I put it in writing and send it, then then I'm putting the ball in the other person's court. Like, they can respond to it right now, or they can get back to it when they're ready. But at least I know that I can forget that thought for a minute, and get some more things done, and then come back to it. And that's kind of, it goes back to like to your point of the CRM, I always like a really great CRM because I can get somewhere with one customer, right? And maybe it drops off it, and I'm like, okay, that's it for today, and then I can move on to many more, and they're all unique and different. So it's not like you can just have a script in front of you and you call
Yeah.
people up, and like that. Every customer is unique and their needs are unique, and I love the CRM because I can kind of like put all this information in there, and then okay, everything dropped off, so that's it for today for that customer. But whatever next day that I'm revisiting that same customer, I can go back and like in 3 minutes I can put myself back on the page and restructure my whole thought process so that it's not like when you go to the doctor and you tell the receptionist, here's my appointment, here's why I'm here, da da da, here's what's wrong with me, and then they pass you on to like the check-in nurse and you say, here's what I'm here, da da da, and you repeat it, and I don't know about you, but the more I have to like explain myself, the more short the story's gonna get until
Yes.
I get to the person I need and I'm like,
Da, 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 da,
3
da.
words,
Give me some Tylenol. I'm
Yeah.
good. Give me some
And then
T3s.
and then they're making an assessment based off of like almost none of it. So I like that's the piece of it that I think gets missed, and but you still can't take away the people factor. You still have to get in touch with a person. So I think that's where I really like the more we build up communication factors inside of our internal systems, and that the better we can reach the customer based off of their needs, and remind ourselves who we're talking to. I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but I think one of the most memorable, probably not a positive, but it happens in our industry. But I was working in a corporate office, and this was all remote sales, just over the phone, and I had two companies, the same industry, and like both guys I was talking to had the same name. The only thing different between the two of them was it was like a innovation piece, like an API type, integration that one of the partners for UPS, they had several partners that were working with them and kind of contracting. So our job was to kind of uncover, would this business benefit from this integration, and would that lead to more opportunity to move packages and things like that. And I got going with one of them, and I accidentally said the name of one of the integration pieces, and he was like, "What?" And it was so embarrassing. So like I tried to back up and say, "I'm so sorry. I'm talking to your company, which is very similar to another company's name, and you're both named da da da." And I said, I accidentally said this other brand, and he was like, it really cut the trust factor by not having something in front of me that could remind me, like kind of like a roadmap, to remind me, okay, I'm talking to this customer. This is the key focal point of our meeting today, and it just kind of having, I like to have less of a off the cuff, like random thing where you just sort of like you remember their name and their company and their products, and then you kind of remember what you were doing. But that's where I think that human error comes in when you just have things written down and you're just sort of like trying to remember based off your own powers and stuff. So I like the technology because you can get down to the specifics, and kind of in a 3-minute period do a pre-call and get yourself back on the page, and reduce some of those embarrassing moments where you're saying something completely wrong to an important person. So anyway, that's kind of where I come from when I think of continuing to build robust technology, to use it, to build better relationships that are more accurate, and especially with truckers. So something I like to do on the weekends is I like to watch. There's a couple of truck drivers that stream their day, and
Oh,
the amount of stuff that they interact with, like just in traffic, and I mean, um, it's got to be really stressful to, like, to your point, it's not even the tired factor, it's the amount of society that they deal with, and
yeah.
and how much how much trouble can happen, or what can hold them up, and some of it's really interesting. So it's like a soap opera kind of. But I think that I like when some industries can sort of streamline their day, because you really do get a feel for what all is happening, and why it, especially with trucking, like why it's such a struggle, and then some of their interactions with the customers. Like they're kind of the messenger. Um, I think I had an experience one time with an LTL. The customer didn't know that, like, you have to put three labels, one on top, two on the side, and they were missing a bill of lading or something like that. And without that, for example, like that customer messaging that some CRMs can offer, um, without that, there was like this, they had to call into customer service, which had to like research, and you had to hope that the records in customer service were up to date, so that they would know to call me and not somebody previous to me, and then see if I could send a copy of it. Hopefully I had one, right? And then they could print that up and electronically get it to the driver's system, versus being able to just, customer messages you and you message back, and then you can send it immediately right there. Like the amount of time it takes to reach a human being over the phone is so much time compared to some of these more integrated, immediate, messaging. I think I like to make sure that all my customers have like a ability to text message me, because that's work that can be, you can multitask if you can use that. So, but those are just some of the experiences I've had where I'm like, why are we doing it this way? Why do we keep using this phone?
Yeah.
So, um, anyway, but I also kind of think that some of the feedback I get with customers is that they do want that integration. They do want to have real time access to their things. To your point, the GPS, if they can see that it's all happening the way that was planned out, then you're right. There's a trust factor when the truck shows up. They get their delivery, everything looks great. Their expectation um, is so much higher than if they have to just blindly wait from A to B.
Yeah, and it's just like we said, it's really about having people work smart and not hard, right? And you
Yeah.
have these conversations with people to want, like you said, some people like the texting, some people are not, and you've got to understand what their personas are like, right? And understand, like for me, I don't know. It's weird for me because like the customers I work with, they tend to be people just exactly like me, and maybe that's
Yeah.
maybe me kind of projecting like my ideal client profile of what I want them to be like. Like some customers, I can text them about the basketball game, like the Toronto Raptors out here or wherever they are and things like that. There's some customers who are like, what, Ryan, I really like how you are as a person, but you know what, like let's we don't have to do small talk. We'll just talk business. But then I know it's kind of transactional from there. But
Yeah.
when you were talking about the different channels and you're coming back to CRMs, and the one thing with CRMs that I'm gonna plug myself here because I own a CRM company that was made for logistics people, was that when I was using other CRMs, like they were kind of built. They weren't necessarily built for logistics sales reps. They were kind of built for me. Person that I saw was more that transactional of like a sale, like sorry, a software sales. When you
Yeah.
buy something and it's just okay, on to the next one, right? Like logistics is
Yeah.
something completely different where it's relationship based, right? So you have to basically show up every single day. It's not a one time sale and then you're good to go. So one of the things that we kind of look at for our CRM that we built is like, okay, what are the things that I wish I had in our CRM. So things like lead generation, things like sequencing, and people think sequencing is like sending like automated emails. It's not that. Everything we look at, Teresa, is a sales sequence. You know, rather you call them, rather you send them a DM, whether you do the things. And I tell this to people all the time when it comes to prospecting. There's no there's no right method. You know, I tell this, I think I mentioned this on our show. Like, there's been customers that, or prospects that I've reached out to maybe at least 15 to 20 times. No response. Like, I send them letters, I send them DMs, I send them videos, I send them emails, I send them calls, I send them everything, text message, but it just wasn't the right time. But then there'll come a time, like, I'll remember this during COVID when basically all the carriers, well, most carriers were like, we're making money, so let's go elsewhere, which I don't fault them for. Everyone kind of likes to knock that, but hey, you got to get your money how you got your money. But anyways, I had prospects, those same prospects, reach out to me. Hey, Ryan, can you quote me on this? And I'm one of them. I actually called him right away, and I was like, why did you, like I've been reaching out to you for a while. Why now? And he's like, I got your emails. I got everything. I just put you in kind of like a Rolodex of like my next, the next time I need to reach out, I'll reach out. So but with that being said, I wasn't like didn't I jumped on the opportunity to be like, oh my god, I'm gonna get a new customer. I was like, okay, well, if it's this is the way that they kind of think, I've got to kind of look at my strategy because do I want a customer like that who's only gonna reach out when times are hard? And if I
Yeah.
solve that part, because I've been in that transactional at my first career in logistics where, hey, work with a customer, do some transactional loads, and then you don't hear from them again. So there's no
Yeah.
relationship there. I'm thinking everything is good, loads are coming in, we're doing an amazing job, no issues, anything like that. But it's just, okay, well, I got to feed my other guys too. So
Yeah.
for me, it really comes down to when you're looking at technology, you're looking at the CRM, you're looking at everything, and it always comes back to because what is a CRM, right? It's customer relationship management, right? So
Yeah.
focus on that
Yeah.
R word so much, and I think it's I couldn't stress that enough to understand that you genuinely have to make a relationship with somebody. And people always kind of say, like, it's not about like doing all these in-person meetings or flying across the country and doing all this. Those things, yes, they do work, but a lot of my customers I personally have never met before. And it's not the
Yeah.
fact that I don't want to meet them. It's just like, look, they've hired me as a professional to handle a certain part of the business because I don't care who you are, unless you're like a 4PL, you're not handling 100% of your customers' business. Like, let's
Yeah.
call a spade a spade. You can be
Right.
doing a lot of shipments, but you're probably getting a grain of salt of what they actually do. So I
Yeah.
think it's on the age, like on the rep or anything like that. We're talking about technology here, but use technology and education as well. Like we have, I think Jeff, who was on our, who Jeff we talked about a bit. He still gets magazines delivered to his house. Like those shipper
Yeah.
magazines, right? But now we have the technology to actually go and read those online, like right now within seconds, right? So you
Yeah.
educate yourself, become different things. One thing that I've used great in my sales is that, hey, I don't do like A to B trucking. Like whenever I find like we have warehousing, I'll send that out to everybody, even if they don't have anybody for warehousing out there, or if it's something that they're looking for, like container shipments, or just always have different services. Don't just be a one trick pony in
Yeah.
terms of like A to B trucking. Like, yes, you can make a very good lifestyle, but then when you look at it, you look at the residual, right? Because
Yeah.
for me, when you've got trucking going on, you got warehousing going on, you got container shipments going on, you got different things of this supply chain, which is like, think about being a spoke on the wheel. It's one of the best things that you can actually think about.
Yeah. So it's the balance,
It's a
really.
balance. It's a balance.
Yeah.
It's a balance. You really do though. It's like for me the way that I kind of see it. It's like going to the gym for like 3 hours, but then you come home and eat like a double Big Mac, and it's like, well, you kind of just negated it, right? Like you want to continue
Well,
that like momentum, right? Like you're like,
yeah.
okay, well, let me go get some protein in me. Like you feel good about it. So when you feel good about the customer relationship, then it's like something that's only going to progress further. Like I've said this too, that I actually still work with some of the customers that I actually got started in the industry a couple of years ago.
Nice.
It might not
Yeah.
be like the amazing, but we've built that relationship over time. So to the
Yeah.
point that I'm at my third company, and this is the last company I'll be at, but they followed me from one, two, and three. So if I made a decision today to be like, hey, I'm gonna go to somewhere else, I know. Well, I'm not gonna say I know for a fact because things change, right? But I would be very certain, and I'd be very surprised if they did not come to work with me at the fourth one. But
Yeah.
that's why I tell people it's not about the logos that you work for. It's really the people buy from people. Just like with
Yeah.
your show and things like that, you're talking about UPS, and it doesn't matter like where. I believe with the company you're with right now, people want to work with Teresa. People don't want to
Right.
work with that logo, right? So that's what we all have to understand here.
Yeah, and I think that that's something you hear a lot right now is, you know, when you talk to companies and they're looking when they're looking for their, they have their growth strategy. They're looking for that. They're looking for the person that has those relationships and can call people up quickly and share. Okay, um, let's just throw out the example of someone who's going from company A to company B. Most of the time there's probably something about it and the reason for the change. So, and especially if that's innovation. Obviously, if you get with a company that has innovations that make it easier for the customer, that's really easy to call people up and share it and
Yeah.
show them, hey, this is how it makes it better for you. And this is why I made that choice. And then, they already know you, so they kind of trust your word and your understanding of their business. I don't think it's so much of like, what do I know as a salesperson? I think it's more of what do I know about the customer and what's important to them, and then sharing relevant things that they actually are interested in. And that takes time, and
Yeah.
commitment to the customer relationship and getting to know them almost like on a family level. So um,
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
it's
that's
like asking your partner to marry you on the first date, right? Or the
right.
first couple of
It's
dates, right?
weird.
You gotta ease into it. You go into that honeymoon phase, and things, and then you start living with them, and you're like, okay, this is who they really are, right? So that's
Yeah.
how I kind of treat relationships, like whether it be friendships, obviously a relationship with my wife, and yeah, shout out to Kayshri, that's actually my wife. So she always
Yay.
shows up on these podcasts when
Woohoo.
we
Oh.
kind of have them. So yeah, so it's like come back to the customer. You got to understand them,
Hi.
and yeah, exactly. And
Happy anniversary, you too.
oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was awesome. That we celebrate together, and
Yeah,
because the other part that
absolutely.
we don't mention as well is that even if you build a customer relationship, not just you move, like logistics reps move, like shipping managers, logistics managers, they might move different companies. I've
Yeah,
had shipping managers that have moved to different companies, and we're still working together. So you look at that too,
yeah,
right? You maintain the existing relationship at where they left. And then the new one where they're going to bring you in because they're going to go in there. They're going to want to work with people that they know, like, and trust. And I know we're going to off base about relationship because we want to talk about technology, but you're able to offer those technology. I feel like you can't offer technology unless you have those relationships,
yeah,
right? So they
yeah,
work hand in hand. Like when I think of logistics, like people will start talking, like what does logistics mean to you? And people will be like, you know what, like supply chain management, or like talking about efficient transportation and warehouse management. But for me, I like to keep it simple, Teresa. I like to say, you know what, logistics and any industry in this world, it's about people. And it's
yeah.
it's that simple. Like my mind changed, Teresa, when I stopped reading sales books and I started reading human psychology books.
Nice.
Understanding how the mind works and how people are, and
Yeah.
that's to me what's really important.
Oh yeah, yeah. I agree with that. I I tend to get into a lot of sales books, but I think that the people I follow, though, especially here on LinkedIn, there's more psychology in the conversation. So
Yep.
I always have something in every conversation that I come away from, and I'm like, okay, I can become a better professional if I make a point to focus on this right now. This is something where I took away from the conversation that I personally can improve. In my own reflection, on what I'm wanting to do, or where I could be better and I didn't see it before. And I think that's true at how we think. Um, Probably one of the most powerful things that a professional in logistics can do for a customer is help them connect their own internal departments and improve
Yes.
their processes. So that's kind of like my conversations always kind of try to go in that direction of like, tell me about your process, because I want to figure out if I have things that you I think we get kind of pigeonholed in logistics where they're like, okay, they just want tracking, they just want
Hmm.
a simplified order process, and there isn't that thought of like, how much of this information can be streamlined internally for the customer. And it's not a, I want to invade your company and and see all of your secrets. It's more like, is there any part of that logistics can go beyond just the operations and just the trucks and the containers and that kind of thing.
And you
And
have to. You really
yeah.
do. I love that you said that because, one of the big things that I do, Teresa, is, I don't just call like the shipping manager like when I'm prospect. Now I get the okay from
Yeah.
them, but I'll call accounting. I'll call sales. I love call, by the way, like anybody who's watching out there, prospecting tip, call sales. Like if you're in sales, call the sales department because they're the ones actively selling. You're gonna find out all the things that that they expect or they want that the logistics manager won't tell you. Right. And the logistics manager is
Yeah.
just protecting, he or she is just protecting that the company.
Okay.
But sales want to sell, they want to, they want to protect, they want to sell to their customers. So I talk to accounting because what good is it is like, hey, we're doing 100 shipments a month, but the BOLs never match. Right. So it's
Yeah.
going to take accounting an additional 5 hours each month in order to process this. That's still
Yeah.
lost time, right? If you can provide any kind of streamline thing. So I love that you said that because it goes beyond just shipping. Like, and
Yeah.
I just
Oh,
love that.
absolutely. I think sometimes we get undermined a little bit, but it definitely does. And I had some really great experiences getting completely off the topic of shipping and having to sort of like push someone's mindset outside of that and into technology, and how those integrations aren't scary, they're actually helpful. And sometimes people are really surprised how fast their business speeds up once they commit to that and they stop like um, being small-minded about the industry itself and how it fits in. And sometimes I'll get in conversations with just friends, and their ideas are really small compared to what the industry actually is. So sometimes I'll share something and they'll just kind of get a look on their face like, huh? And 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 I'm like, oh yeah, it's way more interesting than you think it is. Because a lot of times, even my family's like, why do you, how did you get into this, and why do you keep, like they think they don't always see it as a fit. There's like, how'd you get in that, and
Yes.
and it really is. There is a softer side of Sears, type of logistics business. So anyway, that's kind of, I can get really long-winded about the technology that's involved, and I'm so grateful for the experiences I've had and the exposure and the trust that some of the managers I've worked for have given me as a salesperson to go out and try and make a difference,
Yeah.
um, and everything. So I hope that I get to. I hope to have a good experience, and I get to test out some of the things that you're doing, and then see if that's something that I can grab onto and spread around and things like that. I love doing these podcasts and some of this networking on LinkedIn because of just the influence you can have. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's not about like sales itself, but more how important it is to share information and to overall um, see everybody kind of moving together and growing industry wise and for the markets, whether it's logistics or retail or other industry. So anyway, I think we've covered a lot of the things that I thought was important to talk about, but I definitely see for customers, to your point, they want to see their whatever we planned out in conversation on paper, they want to see it happen in the real world. And I think that's going to be a real balance of innovation that's customer facing and innovation that's internal in the logistics companies.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. We definitely touched on a lot of topics, and the one takeaway for me for everybody who's watching out here is like just understand that it's that relationship. So even if you're trying out new things like to help streamline, like bring the customer in. You don't necessarily. It's not like elementary school where we like kind of hide our work from like our peers and stuff like that, right? But
Yeah.
be somebody who's like open and I want to say the word honest because we should all be honest anyways. But
Yeah.
transparent is such a big word that I love to be with. Is like what like whether it's in your margin, whether it's in like the way that you do processes or the way that you even do requests. Like I let my customers know, like, it's not me actively looking for the capacity out there, it's my team. So
Yeah.
introduce your team and include your team on everything because it's just so important when you're looking at the relationship factor. And then if you find technology, because there's gonna every couple of years, every couple of months, there's always gonna be some technology change because when we look at load boards, how the way that it was done then, now the way that's done now, and then you realize, and then as you kind of get experience as a sales rep, you realize that hey, most of the good freight and the good carriers, they're not on load boards, right? So use that, like if you're years into, and maybe if it's a hard lane or something like that, then kind of go from there. But don't get it. My personally is sell the capacity that you do have and work with the great customers. And it's just not about the customer relationship. It's a carrier relationship. It's your management relationship. It's everybody that you can be, human with. Like, don't just get lost in the sauce of like
Yeah.
AI. Don't make your emails of just all AI stuff. I even saw LinkedIn has an option right now to make an AI generate. You can use AI to develop prompts, but be human. Be that person who actually writes that email, that person who actually writes that DM, be that person who actually is of value, because people are going to know what's authentic and what's not.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's kind of how I've been using the AI and like the Chat GTP is to just give myself a framework to
Yep.
see, maybe a different perspective because I can get very, I think as a salesperson, I get very customer focused, so I spend a lot of time um, looking at their websites and their information, and then I kind of and I've been told that I write my emails exactly the way I talk, and it can
I'm the same
it
way
can
too.
get so it depend. If I'm talking to somebody that is like me, then they're probably not overthinking anything. But if you get in those scenarios where it's somebody that's looking for a specific verbiage or they're looking for a specific way of things. I think the Chat GTP helps me to kind of organize my natural thoughts as who I am, and then give it a little more of a polish or a sharp edge if that's necessary. But I believe you're right. Like once they talk to you on the phone, they get to know you as a person. If your email sounds like a robot, they're like, "Hey, why are you sending me a fake email?" It definitely they can tell
Yes.
if
Yeah,
you've
they're not
done it
stupid. They're not stupid.
enough.
And I think the world, I mean, I think we look at technology too, right? We think of technology sending out, but receiving as well. I think a lot like Outlook, I think all these like companies are getting better with like flagging these things as spam. So,
Yeah,
like if you're writing it, like you could have been writing an email and just copy and pasting it and then send it to a million people or send it to your actual customer. They're going to flag it, right? So it's going to be in their
yeah,
junk folder. They're not going to see it. And then what do we want? Everything moves in real time in logistics, right? So you got an email
yeah,
stuck in the junk mail, you possibly lost a load or possibly lost some
yeah,
kind of communication with the customer. So
yeah. Our entire company. So,
yeah, there we go. Yeah.
so yeah, absolutely. Well, Ryan, thank you so much, and Karshi or sorry,
Keshri.
Kishri,
Keshri.
Kishri.
Keshri.
Sorry. Thank you both so much for your time and coming on to Case of the Mondays. I know every Monday is like it's just like this for me. So um, I'm glad that I could share it with you and to talk about technology because I know that's I'm going that direction for heading towards 2024 um, and I plan to have some fun. So thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And thank you, LinkedIn, and all the people who have attended the show. Have a great day.
Take care, everybody.